So, Ro, tapping untapped markets, organizations talk about being able to reach the right talent. But actually, often they don't know about pools of talent. So that's the conversation we just had, yeah?
Absolutely. And we're talking here 11,000 people who are completely untapped, who could be the best workers you ever had. And we got to speak to the amazing Roy, who I've said on numerous occasions is the best person I've never met yet, from the RNIB.
Yeah, it's great. Look, he's done a lot of work with organizations to make sure that they're geared up in the right way to tap into this pool of talent. So should we get on with it?
Yeah, let's do it. In my world, you are. I put a quote on LinkedIn to one of your Christmas posts that you're my favorite person that I've never met, is what I put, because I love the content that you put out there. I love the conversations that we've had. So I'm really excited to have you on Engaged Care Talent and talk about a little bit about what you do, which I think is incredible, and also talk about what we've got planned, which I think is really exciting. So should we kick off and find out a little bit about Roy, Chris?
Yes, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I think there's definitely that thing about, that those untapped talent pools that, people just, if only they knew about and knew how to, address it in the right way, they'd be unlocking like such huge potential in the country. So yeah, let's get going.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you guys for, first of all, the invite to speak today and the comments on LinkedIn. It does mean a lot because I do put heart and soul into the written word as well as the spoken word. Inclusive recruitment is one of those topics that either you can watch people run out of the room as soon as you mention it, or they sit there and they're engaged because they understand that it's not just going to happen with one person, it's going to be a collection. So I do appreciate it. Yeah, thank you.
Good. All good. So tell us about what it is that you do, Roy, because I think that our audience would like to know that.
This is where you have that unique claim to fame, really, because I'm just one of two people that are recruiting in the inclusive world for a quality standard that is linked to one protected characteristic. There are other kite marks and quality standards out there that look after, the whole recruitment package. Whereas this is purely linked to people that are seeking employment that are visually impaired. So they could be severely impaired with no vision. They could be people that have never seen, just literally never had the luxury of seeing our three beautiful faces today. Down to the fact that they, like myself, I was 42 when I went to the opticians and was told you're going to go blind, which led to the first question, because at that time, the Disability Act, which we hopefully all could paraphrase now, several years on, was new and in its infantile. And I was told by a manager of the time, well, why don't you go sick? You'll get looked after financially. And I turned around and said to her, as crude as she said it, when I go in blind, it's not, the world's not ending for me. So no, I'm not going off sick. But that was, her informed decision. So here we are, sort of many years on, a decade and a half later, and I'm working for the Royal National Institute of the Blind, RNIB, on this quality standard. Quality standard that looks at 6 elements of recruitment, looking at how you attract, how you onboard. And like myself, when you're in the career path, it's looking, how do you retain you? How am I going to keep you employed and being motivated on a daily basis? So it's there. It's a quality standard that makes a difference. It's been on a journey. It's 3 years old. If you think of anything that in business startup terms, to get to 3 years is a challenge, because most businesses fold at year one. The founders definitely have gone a bit batshit crazy, if you don't mind my statement, by year 3. So the two people that work with us, we work alongside each other, supported each other, but we work with the employers, and we work with those special humans that work with the employers that think that they want to work on a change but don't know how to get there, or like yourselves, you're on a path. You know that inclusive recruitment is worthwhile because you're going to attract a new team member that will think in a different way, be a problem solver, be somebody that has had to adapt just to get out of the house to get on a bus, let alone help your business thrive, help you grow your team. So that's kind of who I am in less than 2 minutes, I believe.
I knew there's a reason we get Roy involved in this. I think that's really great, because my question actually is, what is it when you have conversations? You talk to lots and lots of, organizations, who maybe don't necessarily realize that they may be struggling to attract the right talent, but don't realize what right is. What kind of advice do you usually give those organizations when it comes to doing things differently?
Yeah, good question. So initially, we look at how are you pitching the job? What does the job look like that you're creating? I do say, and hopefully no one is offended by it, that blind people don't really make good pilots because of there's an element of that you've got to see a lot. However, the person that greets you and sits you in your seat, we're probably the best people because we're not going to judge what you're wearing or anything along that lines. We're following a routine and a pattern. So that's the first thing I do is ask people to review their job, have a look what they are. If you've got in the job description, must have full driver's license, well, you're eliminating all those people that are blind and partially sighted. And if that job's a desk job, what do they need that driver's license for? So it's about asking the common things of how do you pitch the job, how you're selling the job. But I also reflect back to what the organization looks like and what are you offering in employment terms to make somebody that's possibly going to be a bit apprehensive about travel, a bit apprehensive about going into a large office. How are you going to help them? How are you going to support them with what is classed as, in today's term, as a reasonable adjustment? And hybrid working is a great flavor, but it's also not a necessity. I work with organizations that don't have hybrid and they invite people into the office. But the best part of employing someone that's blind or visually impaired, they usually bring a lovely fluffy animal into the office with them, which is called a guide dog as it arrives in the office, and it's called the office pet as soon as they get in there. What's not more to want than an animal that is going to wander around the desks and bring love and joy.
I've known a few ex-guide dogs. 2 or 3 friends' mum, would take on ex-guide dogs, and they're just amazing.
Yeah, great organization as well. I will always plug them as best as I can, because without the guide dog, I definitely wouldn't be as active as I am.
Yeah. Oh, good. So I'll just jump in at this point because we have got some exciting stuff going on. But to give a bit of context, so Chris, I was with you at RecFest in July last year, and a very excitable lady called Katie Morgan-Jones came to our stand and said, "I've been looking for you, Rowan." I was like, "Oh, is this a lead? Is this a sale?" And what it ended up as was just a very excited conversation about meeting up, really, and talking about what Roy's just been talking about and how potentially we can help each other raise awareness and make some real change. So we then had a meeting where I met with Roy and with Katie, and it was about, I don't know, a quarter of the way through this meeting that I asked what I thought was going to be a really stupid question, but actually it turned out to be an okay question, and it was basically me showing my ignorance because I honestly did not know what jobs a blind or partially sighted person could do or couldn't do. And I think that I had made assumptions without ever even thinking about it, which I would imagine that most people have done as well. And so, although I was nearly blushing when I asked the question, it was really interesting because it turns out that actually there's not many jobs that can't be done. And I was completely unaware. But the other thing that really struck me was, and I'll hand it back to you, Roy, was when you were talking about the phone line at the RNIB and how you find out how many people are out there looking for jobs and what impact it has on their lives. Would you mind just sharing a bit about that? See if we can make Chris cry.
Oh, well, there's a challenge. Well, yeah, it's kind of along the lines of, so RNIB was originated 150 plus years ago to aid people into being able to read literature that was available. Simple sort of mission of where it was going. And part of the service was, has expanded over the years with the intervention of telephone and then the way that we approach asking problems. So when you are going through that turmoil of ups and downs of grief, which happens when someone says to you in the opticians, "Oh, by the way, you're going to go blind," which to an optician is not possibly the best thing that they can say, but it's how you interpret that when you come home and you sit around the dining room table with your family or friends and you digest what's just been said. The first thing that you probably do is, bit of grief, bit of sadness and, remorse, followed by picking up the telephone and seeking support or help. Now, the RNIB helpline is a front desk, which basically means that the people that work there, they take a range of calls from people like myself, who was rock bottom when I'd been told. They listen to what you've got to say and digest it and then offer you support. And in the cases of some people, it's proper end of life as far as they're concerned. Losing their vision is just an awful thought. And when you look at the statistics, there's 3 out of 4 people that are registered with sight loss are not employed. So just think about that. You've got skills, you've been to university, you've worked all your life, and then you're not able to find a job just because you've lost your eyesight. There's only 1 out of those 4 people that would phone that get there. Now, the phone line receives a lot of phone calls, sadly, and there's 11,000 people that are phoned that are seeking employment. That's across the UK. Of those 11,000, there'll be people that are on. So think of grief as 7 steps or 8 steps of life. And if you're depressed and down in the dumps and you don't know how to deal with it, the last thing you're going to do is go into employment. So those people on that frontline desk will work with you and signpost you to relevant agencies within your locality for support and help. But their aim is to get you to what I class as stage 8, which means that you're a motivated, active human that is as equal to people with vision. And they're doing an amazing job. And the list of stuff that they do, I wouldn't have time to go through today. But yeah, great people.
I was just going to say, so one of the biggest drivers is that the fact that it's hard to find employment, which would have a massive impact on anybody. And I think that's why when I've had this conversation with Roy and Katie, I naturally went to thinking, well, what can I do to help? I just want to help. And then I remembered, I suppose, that I'd had these events packages that I'd bought for Audience Link last year through the HR connection. So they've got connected to a huge network of HR directors and HR leaders. Brilliant company, used to be part of the CIPD. And I thought, wouldn't it be good if we were to use one of those events to see if we can raise awareness of what Roy's just been talking about and maybe try and find some solutions using the minds of very clever people in big jobs. So when I proposed it to Team RNIB and also to the HR Connection, everybody was like, "Yeah, let's do it. We're in favour of it." And this is what I'm super excited about, because we've had a series of calls. We've now got a plan. So the event is going to be on the 1st of January at what's your building called, Roy?
It's called Grimaldi Building.
That's it, Grimaldi Building
in King's Cross.
Yeah, so two workshops, which there are still places. So when people are listening to this, they want to get involved, then please get in touch. But the aim is to run a couple of workshops there where we're going to do a little bit of unpicking the problem statement, so what the actual impact is of this problem, a little bit of myth busting. So we're going to try and understand, again, address people's ignorance, if you like, or the things that they don't know, but also get people involved in what those solutions might be. And then finished off with the cream on top of the cake, which is how we're going to actually inspire change. So I'm really hoping that we are going to come back to this podcast in a few months' time, having had some real change because of all this kind of effort and momentum. And we'll be able to report back on it. And hopefully, we've made some change. I'm super excited. So that's what we're doing, Chris. I've not really told you about this just yet.
I do love the fact it's a workshop, because it could easily just be a presentation, a talk, isn't it? With a few questions, Q&As at the end, and the fact it's a workshop, I love that, because it definitely leans more on the side of actually practical things you can do, like next week, next month, as opposed to thinking, oh, yes, it's an important thing to deal with, but you're not quite sure how to do it. So I like the fact you're doing the workshops.
Yeah. I woke up 2026 on the 5th of January, ready to come into work with that skip in my tail, knowing that rather than me stood up in front of an audience of nod heading, I'm actually going to be listening to people tell me, because I've got my version of what recruitment would look like, what jobs would look like, what walking through the office of company X and company Y would look like. But I'm actually going to hear it from them in a workshop rather than me standing presenting. So for me, it's a nice take. And I think the people that are going to come are going to give me enthusiasm and encouragement to go on as well. So wherever we go with this, it's like that double step. Katie, who will be there as well, she is as equally as excited. We've reached out to some people that we've helped, over the last, I'm going to say 6 months, because that narrows it down a little bit for us. And we hopefully will have 3 people that have been through the Visibly Better Employer Standard as an organization, but are also blind and partially sighted, because we learn from each other. And I think that this workshop gives that opportunity for us all to take note and take away, as you say, Chris. What are we going to do? And then we can come back again in a few weeks or a month's time or so. I think that will be the start of what will happen in 2026.
So you've done workshops before, and you've spent time with organisations to understand what their particularly unique situation is. And what's it like when you've go, maybe you're at like day 120 with somebody you have worked with from day one, and you look back at that, kind of, what are the things that put a big smile on your face in terms of what they've done with that first conversation and the continued conversation?
The first part is that they've stayed with me. You know what I mean? That's so important, because a lot of people volunteer to do. Yeah, we can do that. We've all done it as parents ourselves with our children, but it's that they've stayed with me. But it's how the changes happen. So when the organisations qualify for Visibly Better Employer, we continue to work with them for 3 years. And then hopefully at the end of that 3 years, they then sign and we go through the process. And there's another 3 years. So we're just at that pivoting, pinnacle, squeaky bum moment where we've got organizations that have got to the 3 years and they're continuing with us. But what we do, we listen and we learn, because we've got a set of black and white, statements that we look for: performance criteria, evidence, and then they gain the standard. What becomes the best part is when that human turns around and says, we didn't do that because AI stepped in. And what we did with AI is this, that, and the other. And we're like, never even thought of that. Didn't think of that journey. There's a movement about CVs at the moment. So those are the things that we learn and we bring back. And then we bring this alliance back once every 2 months, and we listen to them again and we talk to them about where we're going. And what I'm hoping from this workshop is that I have a different group of people. I'm not expecting all 24 or 30 of the organizations that are there to commit then and there. But if they can't commit then and there, they can then come back and go, well, actually, we've got this platform, or we've got this. Can you come and talk at this? Or can you work with us? Or can we do something with you? Because to make change takes people and it takes a movement. And this is where I think hopefully, Rowan and Chris, that we've got a movement with you. And maybe in a year's time, we'll come back and we talk about what did happen and what didn't happen, what inspiration happened. The real sort of thing that will make me smile the most is when I get to speak to a blind and partially sighted person that was unemployed and isn't unemployed and in a meaningful job that's making a difference. And if we can bring that to the forefront and change one person's life, I'm happy.
Oh, lovely. And actually, you can't underestimate the impacts of work, the work in everyone's lives. But that thing about, we crave that purpose, we crave that kind of autonomy over something. Now, of course, you can get that outside of work. But you can't underestimate the impact of getting that through work and the impact on the rest of your life.
Yeah, it is. It's the work-life balance. I mean, Rowan makes me chuckle because he has a running machine next to where he has his desk. I just can picture that in the office and the fight to get there. But that's the balance that somebody that doesn't have work in their life doesn't get that. And, to bring that into someone, give them a purpose is that's amazing, isn't it? That's just going to be amazing.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if I may, I'm just going to wrap up for this one with just a couple of stats, which I think are pretty impressive or interesting. So, or sad actually. So the first one is that you'd said, Roy, that 3 out of 4 people who have partially sighted or have no sight are not currently employed. That's 3 out of 4 people, 75% of people, which is massive. You talked about 11,000 people that you're aware of. So I'm pretty good at maths, but that you're probably talking 7,000 or 8,000 people, if that was a whole number, who wouldn't have any employment. But those 11,000 are probably those people that haven't got employment that you know of. You mentioned a stat to me the other day. Was it 1 in 6 people are likely to lose their sight? Was it something like that?
Yeah. So in an average train carriage is another way of looking at it. The first 3 rows will be blind. People sat on there. So if you look at how that would impact on the world, and that's people that are registered. A lot of people that have got eyesight conditions that are of working age don't come forward. I've spoken at events to organizations that employ drivers, and they don't come forward because they know it instantly they're going to lose their job. So those figures I'm giving you are only those that have step forward. And if we can give those people the confidence to be able to step forward as well, that statistic will change, possibly more reflective of what real life is about.
Yeah, which leads me nicely onto, like, seamlessly onto my next stat, which is the HR Connection Network is over 6,000 HR leaders, and that is a massive audience. Now, we're hoping to get 24 to 30 of them in the room with us on the 21st of January. But Craig McCoy, who leads that whole networking piece, has said that he's going to push the content that we create out to all of his members. So, yeah, I mean, you've just said it, Roy. The biggest opportunity here, the biggest thing we need to do is raise awareness, so that, for so many reasons. But going back to what you said right at the beginning, Chris, is that this is an untapped market, one of many. And my day job is spent all the time trying to find the right people for the right jobs. And we look at finding these talent pools that are hidden or different ways to target the right people. Well, here you go, guys. This is an untapped talent pool that is ready and waiting and massively capable. Yeah, I'm so excited about this, Roy. I just can't wait to see what happens.
Neither can I. It's going to be a day, and the other part that's going to be exciting is we're going to get to go around the Grimaldi building, which has so many little easy wins to make an inclusive workplace happen. So it's not just getting to listen to us. For those that are building geeks, you've got the only office block in the UK at the moment that is retrofit to a quality standard that looks after neurodiverse employees. And
you're going to come along on the day, Chris, and take some pictures.
Yeah, looking forward to it. It's going to be good. I think actually it's really great to hear, especially looking at the workplace. The role of the physical workplace is under scrutiny / has big opportunities, because if you're not going into that office every single day to work, because you can work at home, you need to make sure that space is geared up in the right way for so many factors, making it a inclusive, intentional place to come and work, rather than just an equivalent of a factory with workstations. So actually the connection with the hybrid world as well is like, yeah, it's fantastic. So I'm looking forward to coming along to that and checking out the location.
Yeah, it's going to be a good day, and hopefully one that we can repeat further down the line and move things forward. The excitement is mutual. Katie as well. She couldn't be here today, but yeah, she's equally as excited to be part of this.
Amazing. Great stuff. Well, thank you for your time, Roy. I will see you in a couple of weeks, as will you, Chris.
Thanks a lot.